We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're recording today, and we recognize their continuing connection with the land, water, and community. We pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. And today we're here at Art Nexus Studio on the lands of Wanyamaja people located on the Manjaji country, and we'll be speaking a little bit about the boulders as well, known as Babinda. And today we have Tailor Birds with Sophie, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what brought her to Babinda today and over the past little while.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's super nice to be here. It's always really special when I come to the boulders. You know, I've only been here maybe 2-3 times, or maybe 4 times, not every weekend. It's been a bit of a mission. Anyone who's driven up this way, you know how long it takes. You came from San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it takes a while to actually get here, and once you're here, you just have to make space. Make space for when you're in this place to actually appreciate the land that you're on. Be grateful that I've got here safe and well, and I've arrived here and am in a space to look at things with a bit of clarity, like a bit of time, space, energy. And yeah, it's been quite a time, I have to say this is pretty much my favourite time to be here.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about what brought you here today?
Yeah, why am I here? Well, at the core of my music is my electric violin. So I'm a dream folk songwriter. I'm a storyteller. I tell stories about the people I meet, the stories I hear. I might go through, I went to Jarama Falls recently, and there was a story about a guy who'd, been bitten by a snake and who spent his last days there, they believe. And, I hear stories as I go, and that's what I write my music about. That's what I write, the dream folk music to fall into and breathe. And that's what the music is at its core. But over the past maybe 4 years, I've got into this thing called plant music. And some people might have seen it. I don't know if you've heard a little bit on the grapevine, right?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it, and so I was excited to meet you when you came through to see what you were up to.
Yeah, so I basically had the goal this tour. I'm heading to Ireland soon for a bit of time, and my goal for this time was finally I have the space to come up to actually connect some electrodes and the plant wave, which is a little box, and connect it to some of my most favourite spaces, some of my most favourite energetic fields, you could say. And that is what has led me here. So I was here maybe 4 years ago, filming, just trying to capture some memories, I guess. And through my plant music, which is the underlying layer of my music these days, I've sort of been feeding my way through the Boulders region and connecting electrodes to the plants, leaving the water at peace because that's a current that I want to let carry on, but finding beautiful little intricate spaces, connecting the plant wave to it and hearing the difference in sound. And that's why I'm here. It's just I love wonder, I love being. I remember someone saying like smacked in the face by beauty, this sort of wondrous moment where your breath is sort of taken away and you can connect electrodes to a plant and hear what it sounds like, and then feed that into your music and create a level that, it's not possible in any other way,
And so how were you introduced to plant music? Like, how did you even begin to do that?
Oh, okay. Basically, I play a lot of shows in Holland, a lot of people who have very forward-thinking ideas, a lot of creative souls. There are a lot of little nooks and crannies of creative people in Holland, and through touring and through travelling and playing gigs with people, you hear stories from people, you know. And I found on the wonders of YouTube this lady in Italy somewhere. I can't remember the name of it. It's lost from my memory for a moment. But there was a lady who had connected electrodes to these plants in Italy. And I was like, whoa, this is wild. Like, it's like amazing. So I asked a friend, I said, you know, could you make me this box? You know, is it possible? And he said, you know, go with the company in America who have worked on creating these boxes. And this was maybe 4 years ago. And I found this company, and they were making these plant wave boxes, which were initially called the MIDI Sprout. And they were creating boxes that people could buy and get the electrodes. And through traveling and through speaking to people, I've sort of got more knowledge in how trees work and how plants work and how to respect the spaces you're in. And yeah, it was from that original YouTube video, you know, that I saw all these years ago, and to now is like light and day, but it's all thanks to that, really, you know.
And did you know that then you would start playing your music with the plants?
Did I know? I am always the kind of person that doesn't want to just play the same solo or the same piece of music always the same way, and I'm really into creating something that keeps me excited. You know, I want to be able to still be doing this when I'm 80, right? The challenge is to always, as a creative, to always be excited and to always be energized by the work we do. So I think I had got to a point where I was like, okay, the electric violin, it's beautiful, and we've got the vocals and we've got the foley art and we've got all these elements, but what is the thing that is missing? So I guess I always knew, in the way that I knew to expect the unexpected, but I didn't know what it would be. And so the plant music kind of was this ultimate thing that led me. It led my world sort of led me to the plant music. And yeah, it was unexpected, but it was kind of expected as well. So
a little bit of both. And now that you've been working with the plants and incorporating that in your music, that's taking you to many places. You travel a lot. You play your music in all different parts of the world. Can you tell us a little about that?
Well, I was in a folk band when I came to Australia when I was about 25, 26, and I was in a folk band for 4 or 5 years, and that was amazing. And it got my feet wet, my feet sort of excited by what I could do, and then I decided that I would create Tailor Birds, who is now a decade old. Tailor Birds is, I know, happy birthday, Tailor Birds. It's amazing. It's crazy to think that, you know, time goes by. But through my need to always evolve, Tailor Birds began in Holland, where I recorded my first album in a refugee turned building. It was a space for refugees to come to have space, safety, I guess. And so I recorded my first album there, and then I went to and then carried on touring and playing shows in Holland in alternative spaces. Then I went to Italy and went to Germany, and just always at the start was like, where can we fit? You know, there was always this thing of, where can we find our space? You know, with so much going on in the world at the moment, is where can we really feel good, and where can we really, make a contribution to the world and to the people who need it, and not the world. The world is a big place, you know, and there's lots going on, but where can we really contribute to people, and where can we really make impact? And where can we breathe, you know? So after touring in quite extensive places, Holland and Ireland have been the sort of the two core places, and then here in Australia as well. So gigs always change, concerts always change, the music is constantly ebbing and flowing, but I really feel I have key places that I go, oh yeah, my heart is good and I can make other people's hearts good, you know. So yeah, does that I guess that sort of gives you a little bit of an insight into, yeah, I guess as a creative, you know.
Yes, it does. And more recently, you've come back here to far north Queensland.
Yeah.
And some connection was made that brought you back here. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I broke my ankle about 4 years ago. I split it open. I heard it go crack, quite literally. There was a cyclone, so the ground was quite wet. And I broke my ankle, had 9 screws and a metal plate inserted into it at the time of the Babinda Blues Fest period. And I had met in my touring time a lady from Kuranda who drove me around the whole of a bit of a tour, and there, through this lady and through a few other people that I had met along the way, introduced me to a guy called Paul, who I have stayed in touch with, you know, over the years. And I was doing one little tour up here, and Paul heard my violin at a twilight gig, you know, a twilight concert, and he was like, Sophie, you have to, you're doing this, you gotta go here, you know, you gotta do this. So, it was through doing lots of little gigs in different places and talking to different people and being open to opportunities, and not opportunities, but being open to possibilities and the unknown. And I think a lot of the time I can be, for sure, we can all be quite fearful of the future and fearful of what could happen or what might happen. And, you know, you make your future by the present, you know, you make your future by the impact you make and the relationships you build. So, Paul, thanks to he's so much full of light and love and laughter and joy. And he's such a fluid stream, you know, of a human, you know. And so he heard the violin. I was in the Gold Coast, I think. I was playing a little giggity gig. And he was like, oh, Soph, you have to go here. And so I was like, all right, I got to go there. So I was planning on coming here, but I wasn't planning on necessarily being here. So here we are, thanks to him, really, you know.
Oh, beautiful. And so you follow the connections not only in this specific instance that has brought you to Babinda, but in general that sort of led your creative life.
Yeah, because I think as a musician, as musicians, we have this, or just as people, we have this imagination of what something should be like, or what this is like this, like a ham and an egg sandwich is like a ham and egg sandwich. It should have ham, it should have egg, and it should have bread, right? That's what a ham and egg. But how do we know? Like, I could give you a sort of a meat sandwich, like a meat and cheese sandwich. This is a ham and egg sandwich, you know. We have these expectations of what things should be, or what life is like, and until we actually can experience them ourselves, we don't know, you know. So as a musician and as a creative, I like to hold on to unknowns and be open to possibilities. You never know, you know. I recorded my last album through playing a little market show, you know, and talking to some local people, and that introduced me to all these other people. So it's very much about, you never know what is possible, but you have to be willing to take the chance, you know. You have to want to turn up and be in a space to be committed to the journey, right? So yeah, I mean, you're like you have that world as well. You're like, all right, we're gonna dance. When we met, you were like, all right, we're gonna dance. We're gonna dance for 5 minutes, and this is how. And it was beautiful, right? It was really special. So I think it's all about journeys or something,
Nice. And I guess looking at the unknown really connects to what you do when you record the plants as well. You don't know what a plant is going to sound like. So there could be this sense of wonder and curiosity that comes up in that. Can you share about how you go about doing that? I guess sort of a little bit of the technical side of it, and then a little bit about when you do a performance and how you actually interact with the plant and say, all right.
Here we are. Like, so what happens when I go? You mean when I'm connecting?
Like recently, you went to the Boulders and you did some recording with the plants. Maybe first, just tell us a little bit about that experience, and
then when I go and do so I'll keep it short and sweet, because anything is possible. I could go on for days. If anyone wants to know more, they can contact me. But so when I go to a place like the Boulders, a very unique, quite spiritual, quite powerful in many ways, quite magnetic, I go and I just go like, what am I going to do? Like what? I don't have any expectations. So I walked around the area. I'd been to it before, and I have no expectations. And so I walk up and I go and I look and I, see all the beauty, and then I get the plant wave. I make sure everything's charged up, all my technology, and then I gravitate towards the trees and the plants and the spaces that it makes sense. So this period of time, I was very conscious that I didn't want to be too obvious about being at the Boulders. I wanted to find little beautiful spaces that I could be in that were their own unique space. So I chose sort of trees that I gravitated towards. Some had very web-like structures. Some had quite clean bark. Some had very mossy area, and I gravitate towards them, and I spend a bit of time, and I always thank them. I don't say necessarily ask, can I record you, but I gravitate to where it feels like I'm welcome or something, and then I always thank it, and I stroke the tree. I always stroke the tree. I'm like, oh, And so that was that experience. I try and I recorded, and then I placed these recordings in various channels that I have. And that can be found out more if people search me. They can find me on the various mediums, But when I'm doing a gig, like if I'm playing a concert, I love 3-hour gigs because you have the time, but short gigs are fine too as well, obviously. But sometimes I might have a plant that I brought with me, and I'll call it a name. So I'll say like, this is Tony, the basil plant, or so people kind of have this name association, this feeling of it being something. And then at the end of the gig, they'll say, oh, how's Tony? Tony was sounding great, If I'm in Italy, I'll choose basil. So I was at Ferrara Busker's Festival, and there's hundreds of people performing, and I was like, all right, this is the basilica, and not in a good Italian accent, but like, this is the basilica. My grandmother learnt mosaic art in Italy, and my grandfather was like studied concert piano playing in Italy. I love that place. I love the pizza. I love the the food, and it's so good. And I was at Ferrara Busker's, so we had basil, and people just came up and listened, and they tipped, like they gave a little bit of money because they were like, they had this exchange of an experience, So I used to take plants with me, but these days I go like, let's see what there's going to be. So at a show, it might be quite simple, You know, you might have at the moment it's quite simple. You know, it's quite you have the plant and you have the violin and the looping and all that stuff. But then the recordings, my album and all that is a lot more intricate. So it's a lot more developed. So for people who hear me immediately, they'll get it at its most basic. But then when you start, if you want to delve deeper, then there's, you know, sound recordings and there's more interesting elements, you know. So it really depends with this whole plant music and music. It's really like, how much does someone want to know, you know?
Yeah.
Like how much information do we want to take in at this moment, and then how much do we want to, firstly, how much does the person want to invest in me, like in the artist, you know, in the story and in the power of what is possible. So it changes, you know. Ask me in a year's time and I'll be like, we've got a whole plant festival. Imagine like a whole stage with like plants surrounding you. So it's very much like, who knows what is possible for the future. You're finding me at this moment here. Yeah. And then, and let's see, hey. Let's see. It'd be interesting to see how we're going in like a year, right?
Yes, yeah. So hopefully we can also incorporate a little bit of your music so people can hear what we're discussing. Yeah. And really it seems like it's about the experience of it all too, because it's one thing to talk about and it's one thing to be immersed in the sounds that you create. And to explore that the plants have different personalities too, right? And that's one thing that you mentioned previously, that like you've gone and you've recorded such a range of plants now that you're starting to notice different things that different plants do, or sounds that you hadn't heard before.
And like I connected to my neighbour's cow, you know, and my neighbour's geese, and my album, the new Tailor Birds album, Salt, has the sound of the walls. You know, I connected the electrodes to the walls, and so I have developed a lot. And the thing that's very interesting, on a side note, and you know, we can end on this, I guess, is that you know, when I went to the Boulders, I went there, all right, we're going to go, I'm going to do this. All these people were like, whoa, what is this? Like, some were like, I've seen this before, or I've never seen it in real life. And it was like, so I must have connected. I connected maybe 8 different trees this morning at 6:30 in the morning, when like there's only one swimmer in the water, right? Like I'm there, I'm like, here we go. And I think I must have connected to like 30 or 40 people. You know, this thing where you can each hold an electrode and hold each other's hands, and people like, what an experience, you know. So it was also this, for people to be so wondered by it is, you know, people let all their belief system, their emotions, their thoughts about the future or the past, and they really focus on the moment. And those 30 or 40 people, wow, it's crazy, right? Like, it's mind-blowing when you think, like, I was like, I'm just connecting the bark, and then here we go, hi, how are you? Like, you know, it's amazing. Amazing.
Very beautiful. And you have an app that you're creating.
Oh, yeah. I will have an app, I'm trying to create a space that people can come to. Instead of sending them to 8 different places, send them to one place. So people can obviously find me on Spotify and YouTube and Amazon Music and Bandcamp and all those things, but that's a lot. So I'm in the process of creating an app where people can see all the different plants, hear what they sound like, request a certain app, like request, I want to see a bottle brush in Sydney, or I want to see some icicles in Iceland, or, you know, all these different things that people can request, but it's almost like a catalogue of sound. It's also going to be a bit of a game, so it's like a foley art game. So it's a combination of foley art, plant music, Tailor Birds goodness. So you could be any kind of someone who might not even be a Tailor Birds fan and still find something that you love. And then if you're a little bit more intrigued, then you can find out more and you can hear more of our music. So it's catered to anyone who wants to, I guess, have a bit of fun and who is sort of looking for something a little bit different. I'm in the process of creating it at the moment. So, watch this space, right? Watch this space.
Yes. And thank you so much for coming in today. I could probably ask you a million other questions. But we'll have to have a part 2 for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this and like you taking the time. It's always super interesting to talk about like plant music. You don't get to do that every day, right?
No, you don't. Yeah. And again, I was really excited to hear about your process and what got you into it. And it's been beautiful to have a chat with you, to learn a little bit more today.
Yeah, thanks to you and thanks to Arts Nexus, right? And Melissa and all the peeps behind this organisation. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
fluorescent apple, take it from my chest. Brick all the tiles as you cross the streets of City Road, as you leave your locks of light. We danced with a wooden drum. We laughed in the midday sun. We danced with a wooden